They've traded in the snow for back to the nice weather in the 60s, and we talk about a trade in the association. We knew it was coming. Now we know it's official. Kyle Korver is now a part of the Cleveland Cavaliers, looking to bring him another championship. Mike Dunleavy, Mo Williams, one who might play, the other not so much. Future first-round pick. Going the elsewhere to Atlanta. Let's talk about the Cavaliers side first. Sam, when you look at Korver, what makes him the right kind of a fit for the Cavaliers here?
Well, you're looking at a veteran player, Casey, who knows how to play, a career 40% three-point shooter, so he can shoot the basketball. And when he's on the court with Kyrie Irving and LeBron James, and you spot him up anywhere on that court, you got to account for him if you're the opposing team defense. So he gives them another opportunity to keep the floor spread and keep those penetration lanes open for LeBron and Kyrie.
Yeah, it's a win-win on both sides. There's no question. I think, while Korver in Atlanta had to work a little bit harder for his offense, Sam, here in Cleveland, he's going to be primarily a wide-open standstill shooter, a catch-and-shoot guy, and he's just going to space the floor for those other guys. And don't forget about Kevin Love. He's going to be a recipient of 3 playmakers that he didn't have in Atlanta. I think it's a fantastic fit for the Cavaliers.
You and I were here, Stu, last night. We're watching the game with Cleveland, and Love is spotting up for open threes. Imagine Korver in that scenario where he's going to be in that position. It's going to be interesting to watch. He's been a guy who's been efficient at the three-point line. Does this put them where they need to be, or still, you look at, LeBron would like to have a backup point guard. We talk about a big man. I mean, how much more is still left for the Cavaliers to get to a point where you feel like, okay, they're right there again as the favorites?
Well, they're still there. I'm not going to say they're the favorites. They're the co-favorites with the Golden State Warriors. But Kyle Korver is another piece that gets them closer. But as LeBron James said, they need a backup point guard. And I'm like you, Casey. I think they need another big. When Birdman went down, they are thin up front. They only have 3 quality big guys. And Stu, you know this, I say it all the time. You may not need a big guy to win a championship, but at some point in the playoffs, you may need him to get there.
Yeah, and I agree with you. The one oddity of the trade is this. Cleveland is not a high-paced team. All right, this is not like acquiring a shooter if you're in Houston or some of these other clubs like Golden State. They're still a grinded-out team, basically, and they're looking to Korver to maybe make that key shot on a key possession. But I'm with you. I think they need another big and a guard that can increase the pace of the game, which is something they don't have, and it may prove to be that they're a little bit vulnerable in that area.
Now, we're vulnerable to great opinions here on this set, but the co-favorites? What do you mean the co-favorites?
Well,
you can't say they're the co-favorites.
Well, come on, dude. I mean, you're talking about Cleveland and Golden State. Cleveland beat them last year, even though Golden State has the best record right now. We all know once the playoff starts, you can get rid of the records, especially once you get past that first round.
But if you had to pick between the two right now, you take Cleveland?
Golden State.
Oh!
If I had to, if you held my feet to the fire.
I like
today.
that.
But next week, it might be a different story.
All right.
But to Sam's point, I would pick Golden State as well. But if Cleveland acquires another big, I don't think Golden State can withstand over a series with the Cavaliers the physicality that the Cavaliers would bring if they're bigger up front. From a rebounding standpoint and a defensive standpoint, then I'd give the edge to Cleveland.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you're heading out to Phillips anytime soon, the Hawks might start wearing name tags when they walk around without their jerseys. Look at the difference between the team that won 60 wins, guys, just a couple of years ago. You're talking about a team that wasn't winning a championship, Stu, at that point, but it is hard to win at that level in this league. How surprised are you they went from there to here as quickly as they have?
I'm extremely surprised. And to me, the downfall, and we can call it that now, being that they won 60 games, started in July 2015 when they elected not to resign DeMar Carroll. Right? And then if you progress a little bit further, fast forward to this past summer, Al Horford goes to the Celtics for 4 years, $113 million. They think that Bazemore is going to be able to replace Carroll. He's not quite the player. And now you're in a situation where you've now turned over your club or the keys to the car to, Schroeder.
Yep.
Right? And now it's Millsap's decision time if he lasts through the season. And I think turning the keys over to Schroeder, I don't think they were as enthralled, the players, as playing with him as they were Teague and Schroeder, and now everybody's leaving. I'm not sure there's a strategy necessarily there, and the result is you have a lesser team.
I always say this. We like GPS in the car. Why? Because even if there's traffic, we know exactly when we're going to get there. Remember what it used to be like when you didn't know how long it would take you? Direction.
Yeah.
Right now with the Atlanta Hawks, why go out and get Dwight Howard, give Bazemore all the money, and now in the middle of a season go the other way?
Well, that's
Sam?
what we're all sitting here thinking. All right, you went out and signed Dwight Howard. You gave Kent Bazemore $15 million a year. And now all of a sudden you're going to dismantle the team. And who's next? Are you going to trade Bazemore? Is Dwight Howard leaving? Look, I understand the concept of when you turn the team over to Dennis Schroeder. All right, they weren't completely happy with Jeff Teague, but you still made some moves to where you made the fans feel like you were trying to contend. And this is a very good, well-coached basketball team. So I'm like, Stu, 2 years ago you won 60 games, and now 2 years later you're breaking up this team. And Stu, I understand if you really feel like you can't beat Cleveland, but I keep saying this. You got to put yourself in position. Everyone's just assuming Golden State and Cleveland are going to be in the finals. But injuries are going to play a key part, and Cleveland has two guys that miss games, has a history of missing games, Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving. And without one or both of those guys, Cleveland is vulnerable to get beat.
You can't be punting seasons if you're the rest of the East, because then Toronto, everybody should shut down. Nobody's Cleveland, Stu. I mean, that can't make sense, right?
No, it can't. But, you know, what disappoints me, too, Sam, is this. Think about the guys that the Hawks have lost.
Yeah.
DeMar Carroll, Al Horford, potentially Millsap, Jeff Teague.
Yep.
What's the common denominator with those four players? They are terrific, terrific guys, quality guys, great in the locker room. And that intangible, you're not only losing talent, you're losing the core of your being as a basketball team. And those guys are hard to find. They just are. Those leadership guys, particularly in this day and age of the NBA, and I think that's where they're going to suffer the most. And unfortunately, maybe too late because they're going to find out too late.
Let me ask you about this because you talk about guys and character. You've got a young point guard trying to lead you on the floor. Right now, the leadership inside that room. You know Korver is being dealt. We're going to talk about it in a bit. Millsap could be next. You were a leader of a team. Talk about, I mean, how are you trying to not take that negatively and to go into your next few games when you know you could be going the other direction?
Well, it's going to be difficult right now because you normally want your point guard to have a certain amount of leadership capability. And I think Dennis Schroeder is going to be a very good player. He's been playing well. Look, the leadership part got to catch up with the play on the court. And what I mean by that is he's playing good basketball, but now he's got to learn how to lead off the court, in the locker room, and on the court. And it takes time to develop that. And I agree with the Hawks from this standpoint. Stu, the only way you learn those things is I got to throw you out there and let you play and put you in a position to where you're the leader. As long as he was Jeff Teague's backup, he was going to be Jeff Teague's backup. And now the keys are given to him, and I think he's going to be fine. But right now, the Hawks have seemed like they've given up. And who's next? Paul Millsap? What's going to happen with Dwight Howard? Do you keep Ken Bazemore? He's a young player, but you just gave him $15 million. And right now, he seems to not be able to fit that role with the money that you gave him.
You talk about Millsap. Where could he land?